sidestep, Curry drive, Curry flip, Curry good!
This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on KNBR 104.5 and 6.8. Streaming live at twitch.tv/thesportsleader.
Dort with the shot clock at 7. Steph forcing a turnover. I jinxed him. And then throw it right away. NBA season high for any team. Isaiah Joe missing that 3, and Holmgren will put it in and draw the foul.
They're having their way now. The turnovers have proven to be too much. They're getting to the offensive glass. They're screaming.
Šarić gets it to Podziemski to lay it up and in, but that will do it. The Thunder have beaten the Warriors twice in overtime, twice tying the game in the final seconds when the Warriors had a 3-point lead. The Warriors commit an NBA season-high 29 turnovers, and the points off turnovers finish 35-6 in a game you lost by 2.
And just like that, the Warriors find themselves 10-12 on the season. As we welcome you in, it's Dubs OT with John Dickinson here on KNBR, the sports leader. 808 KNBR is the phone number to participate in the program. You can give me a call or shoot me a text, 808 KNBR here on the sports leader. And wow, I mean, if you hadn't watched the Warriors absolutely kick away the last 2 games that they played on the road in LA and Sacramento, you wouldn't believe that there would be a way to do it in more gut-wrenching fashion. But then the Warriors showed you that they had a new low in the bag, to be perfectly honest. And for the second time, as you hear Fitz there, NBC Sports Bay Area on the call as we come in, it's unbelievable. 2 games against the Thunder that the Warriors have kicked away, one at Chase Center, one in OKC, both up by 3 in the closing seconds. They don't foul Chet Holmgren at Chase, and Chet hits a 3 to put the game into overtime, and then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander winds up bringing the Thunder home. And then tonight they do foul, but they bungle the foul. Draymond Green absolutely bungles the foul, and they foul Chet Holmgren on a 3 rather than fouling him on the inbounds pass after the ball is in the air, fouling him on the catch. And so Holmgren goes to the free throw line on a night where he had been in foul trouble throughout a good chunk of the early going of this game. And the game goes to OT, and the Thunder basically put the Warriors away, build a 10-point lead in the OT, give Golden State credit for being able to work their way back into a position where they actually had it down to being a 3-point game, and then a 2-point game there as it closes out with Podziemski forcing a turnover. At least it looked like he did, to give the Warriors a chance, but it all winds up going for naught, and the Warriors now find themselves in a really tough spot. Losers of just 3 of the most gut-wrenching performances on the road and losses when you look at the 24-point lead in Sacramento, the 22-point lead against the Clippers, and then a game tonight where the Warriors jumped out and played very well early, 28-19 lead into the first quarter. Golden State did allow the Thunder to hang in this game primarily due to turnovers, and then the Thunder really put it on the Warriors in the third quarter, 33-22, to make it a close game and take the lead going to the fourth before the Warriors outscored and looked like they were going to have control of this one in the closing seconds. Just unbelievable when you think about the fact that the Warriors and the way that they've lost these games. I mean, it's mind-boggling to see a team with championship players at the level that the Warriors have continue to make so many low IQ plays in the biggest moments and continue to just absolutely kick possessions away throughout the course of games that really prevent themselves from being in a better position down the stretch and force themselves into having to execute in the final seconds and minutes of these games, and they just have been unable to do it even when they do enough in so many other ways to get the job done. So, I mean, this one, hard to imagine there could be a new all-time low for the Warriors this season in terms of allowing games to get away. But tonight, I think, is absolutely that, as the Thunder get the win in OKC, 138-136. As OKC improves now to 14-7 on the season. Warriors 10-12. And I want to react to this one with the Warrior fans. Where do you go from here? Because so much of the conversation, coming into today was about lineup changes, and Steve Kerr didn't make any lineup changes. He kept with the traditional starting five, and it appeared as if it was going to work. Warriors facing the Thunder for the fourth time in the first 22 games, and the Warriors did a nice job defensively in the first quarter. Really, the tail of the first half was the fact that the Warriors were outstanding shooting the basketball from three-point range. Golden State had a big-time rebound advantage. They had a big-time offensive rebounding advantage. They outshot OKC in a big way in the first half from three-point range, but it was all about the turnovers. And that was why this game was closer than it ultimately should have been for Golden State. And you can make the case that, if the Thunder play a little bit better or shoot a little bit better in the first half, maybe they're in a better position and the Warriors are playing this game from behind with a little bit more regularity. But that's not how I look at this thing at all. I look at this thing as the Warriors played a winning game minus the turnovers and had it in their hands in the closing seconds. Absolutely had it. Curry hits the step back three, makes it 118-115. The Warriors do foul, and they let some time dribble off the clock. Initially, Oklahoma City didn't really know what they were intending to do, but the Warriors had a foul to give, and I think the foul to give is what screwed everything up in this particular instance for Golden State, because then Oklahoma City had to throw the ball in again. They throw it to Chet Holmgren, and Draymond just bungled it. He went for the steal when he should have just been going for the foul on the catch, up three, to put Chet Holmgren on the free throw line to shoot 2 free throws, and then you play the free throw game. And ultimately, you probably walk out of OKC with a win, and you're back to 500. This is another one of those games that the Warriors lose. And now with the Warriors taking the L, you have to go right back up to winning 2 more games just to get yourself back to the 500 mark. And so just a rough night all the way around for the Warriors. And again, it's another blown lead. It's another scenario where a guy that's supposed to be as high an IQ basketball player as there is in the NBA makes a high school Harry level mistake to allow Oklahoma City to tie the game, and then in overtime the Thunder proved to be too much, and Golden State finds themselves taken again. I thought Sacramento, and I remember from being in Sacramento, Steve Kerr says after that ball game, hey, there's one game a year basically where you blow a lead, you lose, you can't really figure out how the hell or why the heck you lost, but you just have to take it and bounce back and move on. And little did he know, and little did the Warrior fan base know, that it was going to be chased with not only that game, but another one on top of it when they had a 22-point lead against the Clippers, and then another one on top of that to where the Warriors lose the game up 3 in the closing seconds, and now find themselves dipping all the way to 10-12. And the zero upside game, the Warriors had to fight like hell in the fourth quarter just to beat Portland. And so rough stuff for Golden State. And it's back to the drawing board. It erases a lot of things that the Warriors did well in this game, like shoot the 3 ball. They will lose a game when they hit 19 of 48, 39.6% from three-point range. They lose another night where Klay Thompson was awesome, 22 points, 8 of 15. That was a good Klay game in the context of what have been good and bad Klay games to this point this season. Steph Curry goes for 34, hits 6 threes, wasted. How about Jonathan Kuminga making an impact with 24 points, although he did take 21 shots. My goodness, that's a lot of shots for J.K. But J.K. was engaged. He was flying around. He was driving to the basket. 12 rebounds, which I think told the story as far as Jonathan Kuminga goes. Podziemski was good again. And you wind up losing. I mean, you wind up losing, and it's just it's hard to imagine, really, the ways that the Warriors have found themselves losing a lot of these games. So 808 KNBR is the number. Again, 808 KNBR. It's Dubs OT with JD here following the Warriors' 138-136 loss at the hands of the Oklahoma City Thunder. So Golden State, again now 10-12 on the season. And it's back to the drawing board. You know, the other part of the equation when you start looking at where the Warriors are at is they're not making the most of this stretch here in the early part of December where they've had a lot of time off. You go back to the Friday after Thanksgiving, and the Warriors beat San Antonio at Chase Center. 3 days off, lose in Sacramento with the huge lead. Then they are forced to bounce back a couple of nights later. They beat the Clippers, but had to really fight like heck to do it. Then they go down to L.A., blow the lead, trail for the first time in the game with 9 seconds to go in the Paul George 3. Then you get 3 more days off before you play Portland, and the Warriors had to fight like hell to be able to win that game, but ultimately were able to get the job done. And then you get a couple of more days off now after this one, and it just not taking advantage of these games are going to start coming fast and furious again and in rapid succession. And I think for an older team, that can put them a little bit more behind the 8 ball. But the inability to execute, the low IQ plays, I mean, it's just mind-boggling for a team whose core is 4-time champions and greatest of all-time players in Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. I mean, for Draymond Green to commit that foul up 3 on a 3, it's just hard to imagine and hard to believe. And so, yeah, the Warriors had the most turnovers in the Steve Kerr era with 29. We talked about the turnovers. The Warriors had the most turnovers of any team in the NBA this season. And also, via Anthony Slater of The Athletic, the most turnovers that they've had since 2002 as a franchise. And so just an awful, awful night in terms of the turnovers. And so you can look at the late game bungling of the foul, but then it's how do you get to that point late in the game where you're even in position to lose the game because of that. And it's the fact that the Warriors didn't, again, for the third time in these last 3 road games, couldn't keep control of the game when they had control of the game, and the turnovers were absolutely the reason why. So 808 KNBR is the number. Appreciate everybody watching as well on YouTube and Twitch here on Dubs OT with John Dickinson as the Warriors lose this one and now find themselves having to rebound again off of a loss that's just, as difficult, I think, as any that the Warriors have had. And that's saying something, because I think if you trusted Steve Kerr at his word, he would have told you that the game in Sacramento going back to a week and a half or so ago was supposed to be about as bad as it gets. You waste a night where you play well, which I think is the other frustrating part of it. You waste a night where Jonathan Kuminga played so well in addition to that, and it's just, again, a tough one to swallow, and it really makes it hard, I think, on a night like tonight. It's easy on some nights to say, well, this guy didn't play well, and that guy didn't play well, and this is the reason you lost, and wholesale changes need to be made. And the big topic of discussion over the last couple of days has been about lineups, and Steve Kerr rolled with the same group in this one. And so a lot of the plan for the Warriors worked in this game. They got off to a good start. They defended, at least initially, the drives of Oklahoma City at a real quality level, but the Thunder just obliterated Golden State in the paint when it was all said and done. Once they got a little bit of forward momentum going, 78-50 in favor of the Thunder in the paint, and that's where OKC offset the fact that the Warriors hit 14 more three-pointers than than the Thunder did. The Warriors with the 19 3-pointers in this one, and then you look at Oklahoma City only hitting 5 3-pointers. So a plus 42 for the Warriors in terms of 3-point makes. It winds up being a plus 28 for OKC in terms of the makes in the paint, and then it was even in the first half as far as the free throws go, but the Warriors fouling in the second half, and the Thunder getting to the free throw line to the tune of 31 of 36. That winds up being where the Thunder do the Warriors in this one, and for a second straight time in the head-to-head matchup, you get into overtime, which is not where you want to be, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander winds up putting the Warriors to bed with a 38-point performance and really just no answer in the overtime. The Thunder got the first 5 of that session, and Curry hit a 3, but then it was a couple of buckets from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The Warriors went ISO for Jonathan Kuminga after that. He got stoned at the rim. Jalen Williams with some excellent defense. And then Holmgren made it a 9-point game. Holmgren would make it a 10-point game on an and one before the Warriors would fight their way back. And OKC was a little sloppy, actually. Once they got up 10, I think they thought the game was over, and the Warriors did keep coming. But Draymond Green with just a mind-numbing turnover after Kuminga had an and one to cut it down to 7, and then Kuminga hit a 3 to cut it down to 4. But Kuminga had his own gaffe in fouling when the Warriors didn't want to foul. And while Oklahoma City only was able to hit 1 free throw out of the pair, Kuminga fouled out of the game. And Kuminga was one of the Warriors' best players in this game tonight, and somebody that they intended to be a closing player and was a closing player up until the point in which he fouled out. So Curry got to the free throw line, cut it to 3, and then Draymond fouled Lou Dort to make it a 5-point game. Curry, again, with a 3 to make it a 2-point game, but the Thunder are able to get to the free throw line and go right back up 4. And so the Warriors wind up losing this one 138 to 136. 808 KNBR is the number, 808 KNBR on a Friday night. Warrior fans frustrated, want to hear from you. Want to just kind of break all of this thing down, because I'm at a little bit of a loss as to where the Warriors go from here. And I think the big problem is it's just something different every single night. It's turnovers on a lot of these nights. It's blown leads on a bunch of these road games. But it's just different players on different nights that aren't playing well. But the biggest problem is the Warriors are not taking advantage of the nights where they do play well for big chunks. They're wasting nights where they do play well, because I think you could make the case, and I doubt anybody would really argue with it, but I think you could make the case that the Warriors have played well enough to win these last 3 games and should have won these last 3 games. They played better in the Clippers game in L.A., more minutes of that game significantly than they played poorly. They played more good minutes than they played poorly in Sacramento. They played more good minutes, I think, than they played poorly in Oklahoma City in this game tonight. But you look up and it's an 0-3. It's an 0-3, and that's not even counting the home loss to OKC, the home loss to Minnesota. This team has just gotten into a funk here over the course of the last month where they can't win really against anybody in close games, and it's something that, again, the Warriors are going to have to go back to the drawing board to try and have to correct. So we'll pause here. 808 KNBR is the number. 808 KNBR. Oklahoma City gets the win, 138 to 136. We will hear from Steve Kerr. We will hear from players inside the Warriors locker room in Oklahoma City. This is Dubs OT with JD, John Dickinson, on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
This is KNBR, and this is Dubs OT with John Dickinson. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
You want to foul on the catch. You can, as soon as he releases, you can run into somebody. There's the skip pass. They foul Holmgren.
Oh, is it on the shot? They want it on the shot. That's the problem. If you let him catch it. Chet Holmgren obviously knew the foul was coming, so he's going up with it. Is it in the upward shooting motion?
And it's going to be 3 free throws.
That's the problem, right? You see, you go for the steal there, and they're able to throw it over the top. Now Chet's able to catch it, come down, and go up with the shooting motion.
And that's exactly what happened. Draymond Green went for the steal. He gambled, and he winds up putting the foul on Chet Holmgren as Chet Holmgren's going up for the shot. Chet Holmgren gets 3 free throws in which he knocked them all down. The Warriors unable to score on their final possession of regulation, and they go to overtime with things all tied up at 118, and Golden State outscored 20-18 in the extra session. Thunder beat the Warriors 138-136. We welcome you back here. It is Dubs OT with JD, John Dickinson, here on the Sports Leader. 808 KNBR is the number. 808 KNBR, the phone number to give me a call or shoot me a text. A couple of text messages to get to here coming up momentarily as we will head out to the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line. Also, hello to everybody on the YouTube chat. We are live on YouTube and Twitch as well. And just what's going on to everybody. A lot of great comments. Draymond. Buco Sports. Draymond. Well, I'm not gonna totally read that. But yeah, shake my head. Shake my blankety blank head. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine one of the smartest, highest IQ players in the history of the game, which I think is what Draymond is, making a play like that. Flat out bungling the play like that. And it goes to show, and I've said this a lot because the Warriors have unfortunately been in this position a lot where they've bungled this play at different points in time. And it really, I always go back to coming up, and I grew up in Sacramento, and I started working at Sacramento in the early to mid-2000s. And Rick Adelman was the head coach of the Sacramento Kings at that point. And he was always someone who said, it's a hell of a lot easier said than done to foul up 3 in that situation. And what he used to say on the record and what he used to say off the record is you really have to trust that your team is smart enough to be able to execute it. And it's not, that's not a comment that is meant to be it's not a collective 5. It's each individual. You have to trust that all 5 individuals on the floor in that situation, that none of the 5 are going to screw it up, that none of the 5 are going to make a mistake. And so that becomes a big part of, and it really is something that's not practiced a lot, if at all, I think, at different points in time. Now, maybe the Warriors are going to have to work on this because they found themselves in this position twice now, and they've come up on the short end of it twice. But it's really knowing the specific situations in the heat of the moment when you're playing this up and down game that's into the 1 teens and you're rolling around trying to make all these plays. So you have to be smart in the heat of the moment. And I know a lot of people out there are thinking duh, but I do think the Warriors absolutely in this instance should have fouled. Like, there's no debate as to whether you foul or not. There was, I think, a legitimate debate going back a month ago as far as Chet Holmgren catches that ball in the corner, because that was so little time on the clock. It's almost inevitable that you're going to foul on the three-pointer at that point in time. So you want to be able to, that one I could understand, and Holmgren made a hell of a shot, and I guess you tip your cap. Tonight you want to foul, but you just have to be smart enough to foul in a manner to where you get him on the catch. And for Draymond Green to be the guy that bungles that it's mindless. It really is. As mindless as a lot of the turnovers. And so it winds up setting the Warriors up to have to go to overtime, and they wind up losing the game in overtime by 2 to Oklahoma City. 808 KNBR is the number. 808 KNBR, the phone number. Let's go ahead and hear from the head coach of the Warriors, Steve Kerr, in Oklahoma City as he addressed the foul at the end of the game that we've been talking about.
We believe in fouling up 3, but you always have to be careful. Can't foul on shot. You got to foul on catch. And Dre tried to make a play, and it looked like he was there. I thought he was going to get the steal. I think his instinct was just to grab him before he got the shot. But Chet obviously went straight up with the shot. I still thought we might win the challenge. That's why I took the timeout. We had a game in Miami about 5 or 6 years ago where Kevin Durant got fouled, and it was overturned. It was a very similar play. So I thought we had a shot to win the challenge and make it a 2-point shot. But obviously we didn't, and he stepped up and made the 3 free throws, and tough way to lose.
Tough way to lose on top of a tough way to lose on top of a tough way to lose. When you look at the last 3 games that the Warriors have played on the road here, going back to L.A. and then Sacramento before that. Wasn't a 20-point lead for the Warriors in this one, but it was a game where they led by as many as 14, and it was back and forth a lot down the stretch, but it looked as if the Warriors were going to have enough. I mean, they just kept coming and overcoming the 78 paint points and overcoming what wound up being 29 turnovers, the most for any team in the league and the most for the Warriors in over 2 decades, going back to 2002. But you got to foul on the catch. And, yeah, I think Draymond in that moment is thinking, I'm going to get a piece of this ball, I'm going to get the steal, and then I'm still going to be able to foul. And the timing of it just got all jumbled up, and it winds up being a scenario where he fouls him on the shot, and you wind up losing a game that you absolutely should have won. And it's just frustrating. You can look, and there were people on the YouTube chat that were saying, hey, turnovers, bonehead plays at the end of the game, but you got to look at the fact that the Warriors did a lot of things well, and that's fine. But this keeps coming back to something that's been a big-time discussion over the first week and a half of us doing this show here on KNBR, the sports leader, which is the fact that the Warriors can't be talking about everything that's going well as they continue to slip in the standings. Like, it doesn't equate. When that starts happening, you know what it makes me think of? It makes me think of last year. It makes me think of the Warriors all year long being within 2 games of 500 basically either way, and saying that they were going to get it together and saying that things were going to be different and they were going to get a run, and then they never really did. They never really did. They did enough at the back end to get to the 6 seed, and they won basically because of their champion's blood against a team like Sacramento that was going through the whole rigmarole of being in the playoffs and all of that for the first time. And the Warriors still needed 50 from Steph Curry on the road in Game 7 to get it done. And so you can talk all you want about this team being championship teams don't execute as poorly as the Warriors have executed down the stretch in close games. Championship teams don't put games away when they get teams down 20, even on the road. And that doesn't mean you're going to blow everybody out, but you make enough plays to where you don't find yourself in that position where you have to be withstanding a Malik Monk shot or a Paul George shot or a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander explosion in an overtime to be able to survive. And unfortunately, the Warriors have done that, and they've been bitten in the ass by it now 3 consecutive games, and it just flips the whole thing. You look at these 3 games, if the Warriors win these 3 games, and I hate doing this, but you're looking at a 10-12 team that would be 13-9. And a 13-9 Warriors squad, we'd be having a whole different conversation about where this Warriors team is as far as the standings and as far as everything goes for this team moving forward. You just have a much more refreshed, reinvigorated feeling. And now it goes back to, all right, lick your wounds, regroup. This team's going from Oklahoma City to Phoenix. They're going to spend the next 4 days in Phoenix. They're basically going to get to Phoenix and be in Phoenix Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. They will next play on Tuesday in Phoenix. Sacramento won in Phoenix tonight. Kevin Durant missed that game with the ankle tweak that he sustained in the game, in the in-season tournament game a couple of nights ago in Los Angeles. So we'll see what his status is. But it's back to the drawing board for the Warriors, and so frustrating, I think, when you look at the high IQ players, making the worst mistakes. Blobby Light saying they didn't lose because of that Draymond foul. Well, it sure as hell didn't help. Again, the turnovers are the reason that the game was even in a position where the Draymond foul could have screwed it up for him. There's no doubt. San Jose Jazz fan, bonehead turnovers. Again, 25 turnovers, 20 turnovers is catastrophically bad, let alone 29 turnovers. Bucco Sports, it's on Draymond Green again. It's on Draymond Green again. San Jose Jazz fan, at least the Giants can sign Ohtani. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that one. But, yeah, the Warriors, they got to find a way to either put teams away or execute down the stretch. Bottom line, point blank. You got to either be able to put teams away or execute down the stretch, one or the other. And, tonight's not really a night for all of the chatter about lineups and combinations and who should be playing at the end of the game and all of that. Tonight really wasn't about that. Wiggins started well, cooled off, but Kuminga played well, and so Kuminga was in the finishing lineup until he fouled out of the game. Podziemski played well and ended up in the game in the overtime session. And, Steph and Clay and Draymond were obviously going to be out there. Draymond ended up fouling out too. But, tonight really wasn't about, well, this guy or that guy should or shouldn't have played. Tonight was more about, you start looking at who had the turnovers, which I think can be an ugly game to play. Wiggins, 6 turnovers. That's just despicable. Can't happen. 6 turnovers for Wiggins. Saric and Kuminga, three turnovers apiece. You look at Steph and Draymond, 3 for Steph, 4 for Draymond, 4 for Clay. So your primary ball handlers, the guys that are going to have the ball in their hands, you think they're going to turn the ball over. Kuminga had 3. I mean, it really was everybody pitching in as far as the turnovers go. But the 6 for Wiggins, as somebody that didn't take a ton of shots, 4 of 11 in this game, and so, he's somebody that I think the ball found tonight, and he found the ball in the opposition's hands, which is a rough deal on a night that looked like Wiggins was really starting to play better basketball, at least initially. I like the aggressive Andrew Wiggins early on in this game. So it's a tough deal. Warriors are going to have to rebound. This continues to put them up against the 8 ball as far as the standings go, and we're past the quarter pole now of this NBA season, with the Warriors now sitting at 10-12, 22 games into this thing. And so it just comes down to execution and higher IQ play and starting to act and play like it's not an effort. It's not being locked in. It's just execution and consistency. And I think this team's finding that the margin for error that they don't have, because they are a little bit on the older side, is proving itself to be too much for this team to be able to continuously, be able to find enough to win. It's like something is doing this team in on a night-in, night-out basis, which is, some nights it's turnovers, some nights it's Wiggins and Clay aren't playing well, some nights it's, Draymond not being present and available either due to injury or due to suspension. Like, it's a bunch of different things in a bunch of different ways on a bunch of different nights. But all in all, you look up and the Warriors find themselves out of the top 10 right now in the Western Conference at 10-12. And, a lot of these teams that the Warriors are, Suns are only 12-10 after they got beat tonight. The Pelicans are 12-11. Clippers, I don't want to do the whole standings thing. Well, they're only 3 games out of the 6th seed. I just don't want to play that game, but I have a bad feeling we're going to be playing that game again throughout the course of December and January and February and March. And this team is just missing a golden opportunity right now to be able to get on a run, to separate themselves from the pack a little bit. I mean, 13-9 would put the Warriors basically fifth and tied for fourth in the West. If they were 13-9 right now and tied for fourth or fourth, fifth in the West, half game out of fourth in the West, game out of third in the Western Conference, with Minnesota and OKC and Denver as the three teams that would currently be ahead of them at that point, I think we'd be talking about this team at having a chance. And so, I just think it makes a huge, huge difference the way that, just not being able to finish and not being able to close these games. 808 KNBR is the number. A couple of text messages, 808 KNBR 510. Appreciate this text. Disgusting, awful basketball, continuous, careless turnovers. This team will miss the playoffs at this rate. They continue to show that they're up for the challenge as far as bouncing back and putting themselves in position to win games. I think that's a promising sign. But here's the thing that happens when you don't cash these wins in. When you don't cash these wins in, eventually the injuries pile up, or eventually the fabric of your team, because of all the frustration, breaks to a point where you stop fighting at the level that you were earlier on in the season. And look, as long as Steph Curry's out there and Draymond's out there, I don't think the fight is necessarily going to go away for this team, because there are still a lot of positives about the way that they played. It's just you got to – and I wonder what the numbers are, the non-Chris Paul versus Chris Paul numbers, because those first 8 games or so, the Warriors had the turnover issues seemingly under control, at least for them. And I know even within the last couple of days, I want to say they were 22nd or somewhere around the low 20s in terms of overall turnovers. This is going to knock them down a few notches. I'll definitely say that when you end up with 29 in one game as far as the average goes. 209, JD, is it time for Steve Kerr to move on? Well, that's a conversation for the end of this season. But, they've always been willing to live with a certain amount of turnovers, because your greatest strength could be your greatest weakness, but your greatest strength was so good that you were going to win the damn game anyway, and often you were going to win the game. They would give on some turnovers because of their style of play, and their style of play would allow for them to go on these massive runs to put games away. And so, that's the thing that now, this team isn't, they're not doing that. They're not going on these massive runs now that are putting games away when they have opportunities to do it. And then they wind up playing the close games, and then they can't execute down the stretch, or they kick the games away. I mean, this is, you just look at the list of games for this team, and we'll get into it coming up here on the Sports Leader. But the list of games that the Warriors have kicked away, and I again, you're not going to win all of them. But my thing is, if you look at those games and you add them up and you divide by 2, if you do that with the Warriors, I mean, you're still talking about 3 or 4 extra wins that this team's going to wish they had at a different point in the year, when maybe Steph Curry's hurt again, or maybe they are dealing with more injury issues. I mean, that's the other thing that I keep coming to, is they're not making the most of being mostly healthy, and this team just doesn't have the margin for error to waste games when they are not, when they do play well. So 808 KNBR, 808 KNBR, it's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. 808 KNBR is the Warriors lose this one to Oklahoma City, 138-136, and they're back in action on Tuesday in Phoenix against the Suns before they go play the Clippers in LA again, and then a lot of home games coming up over the middle of December and on into January, and really all the way through the middle of January. So the Warriors have started to play much better at home of late, even though they've had to grind their way to some wins. On the road, though, it's slipped. The Warriors now with their 4th consecutive road defeat after they got off to the 5-2 start, losing in Phoenix the night before Thanksgiving, and then the 3 just bone-crushing losses to Sacramento and the Clippers and Oklahoma City in this one tonight. So let's hear another clip from Steve Kerr. He did give the Thunder credit, but it was all about bad decisions.
Well, I mean, I give them credit. They're one of the leading teams in the league in terms of forcing turnovers and creating transition off of turnovers. And in a lot of ways, it was, the game was our offensive rebounding against, their ability to force turnovers. And that's why the possessions actually ended up about the same. We'll watch the tape, but there were just over and over again, there were just decisions that we would like to have back.
Bad decisions you'd like to have back, all of those things. I mean, yeah, but again, at some point you have to clean it up. And that goes to the prior text of, is this a scenario where, can Steve Kerr clean it up? Or is it too ingrained in the fabric of what this team has been for the last decade to be a high-volume turnover team, and you can't really clean it up because you're so used to needing to play the way that you play to be successful at all. And a lot of it is the system and the offense and run and motion and all the passing and cutting. And a lot of it is just carelessness from your best players. A lot of it is the fact that Steph Curry's great, but he can be a high turnover player when he's not right. I mean, Klay Thompson, 4 turnovers, Andrew Wiggins, 6 turnovers. That's where I look at, because Draymond's going to have turnovers because he's a primary ball handler. Curry's going to have some turnovers because he's a primary ball handler. The number that stands out really for me, it's 2. It's Wiggins with 6 and Klay with 4. I mean, that's 10 right there of the 29. And those are the ones that I think when you have players that aren't your primaries, having it in their hands. And when they have it in their hands, they should be making a move and looking to score in pretty short order as opposed to playmakers. Klay should be taking shots pretty quickly. Wiggins should be in attack mode pretty quickly. And so I think the number that's most alarming is those. And I'll even give Saric having 3 in limited minutes is tough. Kuminga, young player. I'm not really going to come down his road for the 3 turnovers, but he does have a couple of bad ones a game. But again, that's a younger player trying to develop and get better. So that's something that definitely needs to be cleaned up a little bit. It can't be 29. It can't be 30th out of 30 teams in the NBA if this team's going to get things on track and get back to contending. 808 KNBR, the number. 808 KNBR. Appreciate everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch as well as the text line. More from the Warriors locker room coming up as the Thunder beat the Warriors 138-136. It's Dubs OT with JD right here on 104.5 FM and 680, the sports leader.
live from downtown.
Hurry, way downtown. Bang! Bang!
This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on the Sports Leader, streaming live at KNBR.com and on the KNBR app.
Steph having it taken away. Another turnover, another layup.
They're third in the league in opponent turnovers.
The game is flipped by 21 points. From up 14 to down 7. Kuminga on Holmgren, wheels around him, step around, and off iron. Pajewski another rebound. Šarić a warm-up three. And Pajewski another rebound. Brandon running hook, another rebound. Pajewski's been everywhere. He drives on Giddey. Kuminga didn't want the three, down the lane, and an offensive foul. Oh, man. That would have been a possession for the ages had they scored.
Yeah, it would have been, and it also encapsulates, I think, the entire night for the Warriors. A lot of hustle plays, a lot of things that they did well, but too much of it wiped away by the turnovers. 29 of them. Again, the most the Warriors had in a game since 2002. As we welcome you back, it's Dubs OT with JD, John Dickinson here on The Sports Leader. Warriors now 10-12 through 22 games on the season. 808 KNBR is the number to participate in the program, either via the phone lines or via the text line. Appreciate everybody chiming in. We'll get more from Steve Kerr coming up here, and also a little bit from Draymond Green coming up here as well, as the Warriors, another tough loss. Want to hear from Draymond for sure, hopefully about just the foul and what was going on with the mistake on the Chet Holmgren foul, with the Warriors up 3 there in the closing seconds, and Oklahoma City looking to inbound in regulation. And Draymond goes for the steal, can't quite get the steal. Then Holmgren's going up for the 3, fouls him. Unbelievable when you think about the last 2 games that these two teams played, where the Warriors have the ball in Chet Holmgren's hands, they don't foul, and he hits a corner 3 to force overtime in chase. Thunder go on to win that game in the extra session. And then tonight they do foul, but they bungle the foul, and Holmgren goes to the free throw line to make 3 free throws to force overtime, and the Warriors wind up not getting run out in the OT, although it looked like they were going to get run out in the OT, trailing by as many as 10. Come back and have a chance in this one, but you add it all up, and it's still a gut punch loss for the Warriors on top of a gut punch loss on top of I won't even say a gut punch loss in Sacramento. I think that one was a below the belt punch loss against the Kings. But these continuing to compound each other, and the Warriors have to figure it out. And so we'll see if they can get back to the drawing board, going from OKC to Phoenix and from Phoenix to LA before there's going to be a real home-heavy stretch around the holiday and New Year and into the middle of January. So 808 KNBR, the number, 808 KNBR, 650 chiming in on the text line. Does it boil down to no legitimate number 2? Curry gets doubled and trapped, and the next option can't break down their man, so they force a pass, force feed Steph, or just take a poor shot. I think a lot of it is just bad decision-making in the context of a game where there isn't a lot of pressure. To me, the biggest problem for the Warriors has been turnovers when there isn't pressure. It's just the turnovers that are kind of unforced with bad passes or miscommunications on cuts or general sloppiness. Those are the ones that I think are the killers as far as the turnovers go. I do think it's a legitimate question as far as, and I almost think it's a separate issue as far as the Warriors having no legitimate number 2. And that gets back to, you just don't quite know where your scoring's going to be coming from. And I think that creates a number of different issues in that, you know, even when the Warriors do get secondary scoring from Klay Thompson, it's usually not in a way where, like, Klay is not he's not a creator. He's not a ball. He's not somebody he's just a shot maker. You know, Wiggins is not really a creator. He's a scorer. Kuminga, when Kuminga gets on a roll, is not a creator. He's just a go-get-it guy. He's a go-to-the-basket guy. And I loved Kuminga's game. It took a lot of shots to get his points, but I loved his energy. The most telling stat for Kuminga was the rebounding in this game. For Kuminga to go 24 and 12, and these last two games, the 17 minutes against Portland the other night and the 29 minutes, he looked like he was playing at a different speed than he had played at any point. So if Steve Kerr was trying to deliver a message by taking him out of the rotation in the first half of the game against Portland, when everybody, including yours truly, was wondering why the hell it was, then I think the message was delivered. And I know he addressed that a little bit post-game on Wednesday, the fact that, hey, I know what to do. I know what to do in these situations, but he's played at a different speed. He's played, and I've said this, for as talented as Kuminga is, he has to play a high-energy game. He has to play like a hustle player, not like I'm JK, too cool, put it on the deck, hit my pull-up jumper from 15. No. He needs to be putting his head down and getting to the bucket for a layup or a dunk. He needs to be flying around, springboarding his way, bouncing around that floor. And I think these last two games, he's done that, and that's where he's going to wind up being an effective player for this team and work his way into the regular rotation minutes and everything that goes along with that. So I think that's the Kuminga, and I really think Kuminga's been the biggest bright spot of the last two games collectively, but it's the energy more than the raw results. It's the style of play more than the points scored for Kuminga, because if he can do that consistently, then we're not going to be having the conversations about, well, why is he not playing? Why is he not in the rotation? He looked like everything was moving quicker for him, which I think is a good sign, more than it has really at any point throughout the course of this season so far. 808 KNBR, the number. A couple of more text messages. We'll go back to the YouTube chat as well. Appreciate everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch as we get this thing rolling here on The Sports Leader, as the Warriors find themselves losing another one to the Oklahoma City Thunder. They end up winning the first one and then drop the final three of the season series. And so, the Warriors now find themselves 2 under 500 and having to keep it rolling. Ed checking in on the YouTube chat, Draymond and Clay with fouls. Yeah, fouling was a big-time problem. Fouling was a major problem for the Warriors in addition to the turnovers. Cowboy pointing out Kuminga's plus-minus. He did not have a good plus-minus tonight. There's no doubt, but I do think he was active, and I think that's the most important thing. Raw plus-minus doesn't always tell the story. I think tonight would be a scenario where raw plus-minus for Kuminga doesn't tell. He was an effective player even with a bad plus-minus in this one. So, Enrique Rivera, very nice game from JK. I will give Kuminga that. Philip checking in. This is the dumbest team in the NBA. Well, they make some of the most boneheaded plays imaginable. There's no doubt. And then Gonzalo. At the end of last season, Curry said that the offense had no change-up. Seems that this season is more the same. Other teams are faster and more athletic, and I think that does continue to be. Oklahoma City really, you hang in games like the Thunder did against the Warriors a couple of different times, and a big part of the reason why you hang in those games is because of the simple fact that you're able to just keep coming. You're able to keep putting pressure on the defense, and that's one thing that the Thunder did, even though they weren't hitting threes coming into this thing, is the leader of the NBA in terms of three-point shooting. They weren't making their threes tonight, but they were still getting into the paint. They were still slashing. They were big drive and kick team. They were doing that, and they're just relentless. And at this point, better than the Warriors. I mean, this is a team that's trying to make a jump from where they were last year, 10th in the West, and a play-in team. Like they're making a significant jump to maybe top 4 when you look at the way that they've started this season, and now 14-7. So it's impressive stuff. But yeah, no changes, Gonzalo, really. There's been some changes, I think, in the offense when Chris Paul's been on the floor, but it's a matter of, this group doubled and tripled down on their system and their core. And right now it's not working because the championship players are the guys that are making the most mistakes. And that's the part that I think makes all of this so difficult to understand as the Warriors drop another one here. 808 KNBR is the number, 808 KNBR. Dubs OT with JD here on The Sports Leader. We are going to keep things rolling tonight into the 9 o'clock hour a little bit, just based on the fact that the game did go to overtime and did wrap up a little bit later. We will hear more from Steve Kerr. We will hear more from the Warriors locker room and post-game press conference as well from Oklahoma City. Looks like we've got Draymond Green. Looks like we got Brandon Pajemski coming up. So all of that is straight ahead. 808 KNBR. We'll get back to more texts. We'll get back to the YouTube chat. Really appreciate everybody rolling through here on a Friday. Tough loss. Another gut punch loss for the Warriors as Oklahoma City wins it by 2. They end up winning this one 138-136. 808 KNBR. That's all straight ahead. Dubs OT with John Dickinson. KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.
Nation, this is the real and inside story on Warriors basketball. Dubs OT with John Dickinson continues. Streaming live at twitch.tv/thesportsleader.
Klay Thompson missing that too, so the Thunder, when they're out-rebounded, are 6 and 7. And that is another offensive foul drawn by Draymond Green.
He just slid in there while Jalen Williams wasn't looking. And he saw that pass happening, and he got there. Watch where Jalen Williams is looking. As soon as he turns around, Draymond is there. He didn't even have a chance to avoid him.
Oh, perfectly done. Kuminga back scratcher from Draymond.
It's this Steph coming off of it. Make defenders hesitate.
Tell you what, Steve Kerr out of timeouts. The ATO design. Beautiful.
Yeah, excellent game from Jonathan Kuminga, 2 in a row for JK. We welcome you back. It's Dubs OT with JD here on The Sports Leader. Warriors lose to the Thunder, 138-136. Tough one to swallow. Golden State did come back, outscored Oklahoma City in the fourth quarter by 5, had the lead in the closing seconds. And all the turnovers, 29 of them to be exact, ultimately do the Warriors in this ball game. And the Warriors end up now dipping to 10 and 12. Draymond Green with the foul on the shot. Chet Holmgren going up for the 3. Just foul him on the catch. Don't go for the steal. YouTube chat had a few people checking in. Just why did you go for the steal, Draymond? Didn't need to go for the steal. Just make sure you get the foul. But Draymond, we'll hear from Draymond. He was candid as ever when asked about it during his post-game media availability in Oklahoma City. So, Greg, let me know when we have that ready to roll as far as Draymond goes, and we'll get to it. And some other post-game sound from Draymond Green in Oklahoma City as well. We heard from Steve Kerr earlier discussing the foul at the end of the game with Draymond Green fouling Chet Holmgren, and then just the turnovers and the bad decisions and the careless and sloppy play that the Warriors unfortunately have had far too much of during this last month, as they've seen their record go from what was a season high after 8 games at 6-2 to a team now that you look up and they're 4-12 now or 4-10 rather in their last 14 games after that start, and they were 5-2 on the road. Now they're 5-6 on the road. So still, you'll take a road record that's right around 500. But now the fact that they were so bad in the 1-5 homestand off of that 5-2 start on the road, they have started winning games inside Chase Center. But unfortunately, you look up and it's 5-6 home. It's 5-6 away. 11 total home, 11 away, 10 and 12 overall, and it sends everybody kind of back to the drawing board as far as having to just re-examine what this team can do to either put games away when they have a big lead or execute better down the stretch in games, because this team is just getting wrecked. It's 1 or 2 plays in the final couple of minutes every single game, basically, that this team is not making in these road games that's doing them in. So 808 KNBR, back to the YouTube and Twitch comments here momentarily. We also have some text messages to get into as well, the Golden State Lumber and Building Materials text line here on The Sports Leader. But as promised, let's go back to Oklahoma City. This audio courtesy of Anthony Slater, who was in the postgame press conference at OKC. And here's Draymond explaining what the hell happened on the foul at Chet Holmgren.
I thought, something that we've been talking about a lot, fouling while we're up 3, and so I was very hypersensitive to it, like I got to foul. You don't want to be the guy to get that 3 up. I personally thought that I got him before he started his upward motion, but I saw the replay too, and it's close as hell. And, regardless of if I did or didn't, if it's close, they're going to go with the call on the floor. The call on the floor is 3 shots. So I got to be better there. He's facing the rim. I can't foul there. I think, I jumped for the ball thinking I could get the steal, and it went a little over my head. On that, I just need to stay down and not get the steal, knowing I'm fouling him as soon as he starts catching the ball. So I f***ed that off. It's a mistake that a young guy should make, not someone in their 12th year.
And not someone that's considered to be one of the best defensive players and one of the highest basketball IQ players of all time. I mean, that's the rub in this thing, unfortunately, for Draymond, is it's just not the kind of play that you would expect from him in that particular situation. But he did reference the fact that, all right, it's tough, and we're all amped up, and we've been talking about wanting to foul, I think probably because of the last time they faced Oklahoma City when they didn't foul and Chet hit the three on them and they went to overtime and lost that game. It's just everybody's got to know the specific situation, because the specific situation is different in every instance. And I think that's the one thing that I'll say, going back to just the Warriors played it beautifully when they had the foul to give. And I actually, in the moment, didn't realize that they had a foul to give, but they played it perfectly when they had the foul to give, to where, they let some time run down. The Thunder were kind of driving in, and then you foul up three, and you don't want to give up a draw and kick type opportunity. And had that been the foul with the Warriors in the penalty, you'd be thrilled with the execution. Brilliant execution. And then you think, okay, well, now you got a foul on the catch off the inbounds, and that's been now 2 times where the Warriors have bungled it. They bungle it in not fouling, and then they bungle it in fouling in this one. And either way, both forced overtime and both turned into losses in games that, frankly, the Warriors should have had. 808 KNBR, the number, 808 KNBR. As the Warriors lose this one, you got to appreciate and respect Draymond Green's candor in that. But yeah, it's a scenario where Draymond Green's all over it. Should not be in a position where he's the one screwing up that play. Cowboy on the YouTube chat, maybe the silver lining of losing is the Dubs may have a good chance to obtain the number 1 draft pick next year. That's not what this team is thinking about. That is not what this team is thinking about by any stretch. This team is thinking they still have the ability to contend for an NBA championship if they can get their, since we just had a Draymond bleep, if they can get their bleep together. So we'll have to see. Enrique, is Draymond taking accountability? Yeah, I think that was accountability from Draymond Green, which he'll take accountability for a bad basketball play. I think the problem is sometimes he doesn't take accountability for the other stuff that's non-basketball related. And so, that's where I think that has the potential to be problematic. So yeah, we'll see what happens as far as how the Warriors move forward and try to correct things. Let's keep it rolling here and go ahead and hear from Draymond about just overall where he sees the Warriors now at 10-12 in the year.
Seems like 22 games old. Do you feel some urgency?
I don't feel the urgency that we need to have, and that's on me. I'll be better at that with that, making sure guys have the urgency that they need, but it hasn't been there. And you can't claim to lead in that department when it's going well and not lead when it's not going well. So I'll take that one on the chin. I got to make sure this team play with a better sense of urgency, and I will.
See, I disagree with that. And look, I'm going to respect Draymond on it, but I don't think that urgency, like tonight, urgency wasn't an issue. In L.A., when the Warriors built a 22-point lead, urgency wasn't an issue. In Sacramento, when they built a 24-point lead, urgency isn't an issue. And urgency is not an issue when you're blowing leads or you can't execute at the end of games. Where the urgency's been an issue has been the home game against Portland. Like that's an urgency issue, where you have a home game that should be a layup against Portland and you're down 9 in the second half and look like you're maybe going to drop that one. And then you're really looking at a catastrophic stretch. The Warriors have avoided catastrophe. They've won enough, and the 6-2 start padded their record enough to where they've avoided catastrophe. But every one of these losses that they take in games that they should win, it just bumps them right back up to a scenario where they're on the brink of catastrophe again if they do lose one of those games. They start losing to the real ne'er-do-wells of the bottom of the Western Conference of the NBA, then they're going to be in major trouble quickly. And so that's why dropping these games is extra problematic. But I don't think urgency is is an issue for this team, at least in a lot of these games to this point of the season. Not tonight, not any of these road games they've kicked away, maybe some of the home games, but then a lot of the games that they lost at home, they were shorthanded in different respects. So, again, urgency, I would not even put – I don't even know that I would put urgency in the top 5 things that are wrong with the Warriors right now. when you secondary scoring, Clay and Wiggins overall, I think, have been issues. Maybe you want to go Clay is 1, Wiggins is 2. You just turnovers. Basically, since Chris Paul's been in and out of the lineup, turnovers have been a big problem. Inability to hold on to leads. That would be the 4 things that come to mind as far as biggest issues for this team. And fouling is probably fouling, turnovers, Wiggins, Draymond, and the inability to hold leads. Pick your 5 things right there, and put them in any order you want. But I think those are the things that have been the biggest issues for the Warriors. I don't think urgency's been one of them, but again, the one thing that happens when you lose as many of these games as the Warriors have, urgency does become more of a problem quickly because you have to win. You basically can't have any more slip-ups, especially in home games, especially against teams that are among maybe the bottom feeders in the NBA. So 808 KNBR, Ed checking in. Curry looks tired or just kind of sick of it. Man, there have been a lot of nights where Curry does have that tired, frustrated look on his face. I think there's no doubt about it. And he's trying to fight through it. There have been a few times where I think Steph has looked around, and I almost wonder what Steph's thinking. But I think Steph is thinking it's a deal where I think Steph is thinking, man, I knew this was going to be hard. I wanted to run it back. But, man, this is tough. This is tough. This is tougher than I thought it was going to be to run it back with everybody and have it not be like last year. Greg Silver, the great Greg Silver, says we have a cut from the post-game press conference where Steph is addressing just that very thing, so we're going to roll that right now.
Got to figure out how to stop talking about it and do it, or else you'll be, into the new year with the same problem. So whatever it is, if it's within our control, we got to do it if we're going to be any type of a serious team. And, yeah, I'm kind of sick of talking about it, too. You just got to go do it.
Yeah, sick of talking about same old, same old. They were sick of talking about it when they were 6-2, and it looked like it was going to be a different scenario. But, yeah, I'm not calling it bad body language because I don't think Steph ever really has bad body language for the most part, and he's done everything he possibly can to hold this team up. And without Steph Curry, we'd be talking about a 3-19 team through 22 games. But there have been some moments where you look at Steph and you go, man, is he wondering internally if he made a mistake in basically co-signing to the fact that he wanted to run it back exactly the same as last year with a few improvements off the bench and a better veteran youthful mix. And kind of try to attack it that way. So that is something that has crossed my mind. All right, 808 KNBR. Let's go to West Oakland. Sam on the phone lines here on Dubs OT with JD. What's going on, Sam? Long time no chat.
Man.
Welcome over to the Sports Leader.
Man, JD, I'm so proud of you, man. Man, like whatever it is, man, I'm always touch down with you, bro. Like wherever you land. Whatever blesses your feet, I'm always come and follow you because you're one of my favorites, brother, man. Congratulations, bro. I'm just – how many times can we hear a Draymond interview? I love Draymond. I'm a Draymond. I love him. I want him to ride, and I want him to ride the sunset with this team. But there's nights where whenever I hear him do his post-game conference talking about, well, it could have went this way, and it's just like you're supposed to be one of the leaders of this team, and whenever you're not doing things correctly, it's like the domino effect of Draymond's IQ is crazy, and I knew it the minute that we went into overtime with OKC. It's literally what I said right before Chet Holmgren hit that game-tying thing the last time we played OKC. The Warriors aren't built to play a team like OKC in overtime. If we don't get it done during the regular 4 quarters, there's no way we're going to last against a team like that in the overtime. We don't have the size. We don't have the youth. We don't have enough youth at least. Right? We got Moody, we got Kuminga, but we don't have enough youth to close out games that could put up points to stay locked in with a team like that. And I find myself at a crossroads with the Warriors right now. There's nothing consistent with us. There's nothing consistent that you could say is this is the lineup that can get it done for this particular moment. We're scratching and clawing every game. We started 6-2. We started the way we started based off of the energy that the old heads can provide, but we still weren't figuring out rotations. I mean, to judge a team by the beginning of the year is also BS because you could never do that, but we're missing so many things. And the turnovers, for Draymond to be such a high IQ guy, when he makes those thread-the-needle passes that consistently gets turned over, some of those passes I look at with Draymond, I'm like, yeah, you're the high IQ guy, but you're threading the needle too much. Like, our system has been caught on, not only by the rest of the NBA, but now by the youth of the NBA. You can't throw those thread, and since we don't have a big threat down low, like a Bogut who could not only play the down low position, but also be an assist leader on the team as well. You can't be throwing those passes where it's consistent. I can't tell you how many times I've seen them throw those passes where it goes through the lane. And it's like, you're throwing it to who? To who? You see that they're locked in defensively on everybody. Who are you throwing that ball to? So these decisions all right, go ahead, JD.
No, it's just and we'll keep it rolling here, Sam. I'll let you finish your point, but it's just in the context of their offense, it's either somebody that's supposed to be somewhere that they're not, or they're just they're trying to be so conscientious about ball movement because that's such a big part of what they're trying to do that they're just trying to keep it flowing, and and you're keeping it flowing without any order to it, and the ball ends up somewhere where it shouldn't be.
You just read my mind. Without any order, it's like I see what Draymond's doing. It's like when Brock Purdy throws a ball, he's throwing it to a spot, and Ayuk knows to get to that spot. For some reason, whenever he's thinking to the greatest attribute to Draymond, what he's accustomed to with Clay and Steph is that he knows to throw to a spot that he knows they're going to land on. That's just muscle memory based on those three being together for 12 plus years. But with new folks, it's just not working. Like the flow is not the same. The flow, the pass, what was the goal to have during the Warriors' golden run? The flow was to get over 30-plus assists a game, guaranteed Warriors victory, right? I'm really curious to see what that number is now during the victories. What type of assist totals are they having during those games? Because I remember you guys talking on other station about if the Warriors get 30-plus assists a game, then we're Gucci, we're good. But now it's like we're getting freaking 30 turnovers a game. You know what I mean? And it's like the total opposite. So I don't know what the middle ground is for this team. Maybe there's a move to be made. Maybe it's you got to tweak with the lineups to start the game, because I really love Kuminga's energy when he comes in. And I think Kuminga's figuring out in a way where it's like, I need to be a slasher. I can't be this. I'm not a pick and pop guy.
No more pull up 15-footers off the dribble. Get all the way to the bucket or keep it moving,
Dude,
Sam.
You are a menace. You are a menace. And when you drive, who's going to stop you, Kuminga? Who is going to stop you?
He's got a little. It's almost like he wants to hit the Kevin Durant or the Kawhi pull up, and it's like, no, dude, get to the cup and throw it down on somebody.
It's a youthful energy. It's a youthful energy that I love, but we both know that Kuminga is still relatively new to the game in a way, because coming from where he came from, he's still learning the game, and he's only 21, so sky's the limit. I don't want to give up. I don't want to trade him, but there's so much there, and you see it when he comes in, and it's just like, damn, he needs like something else. He needs, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sam, thanks, man. I'm gonna keep it moving on.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate the call, Sam.
Yeah.
Good phone call.
Yeah.
Really good phone call. A lot to chew on there. And yeah, Kuminga. The one thing I will say, the last 2 games for Kuminga, and I'll reiterate, making the point a little bit earlier, Kuminga was playing hard tonight, and he played hard Wednesday. That's the effort level that it's got to be. Flying around like a dart every play. Going for the rebound, going for the loose ball, attacking the rim, keeping the ball. Like he was so much more decisive in everything that he was trying to do that, you live with the 21 shots, I guess. I mean, he ended up shooting more. Like here's your random stat for tonight. And again, I don't think it totally impacted the game. Kuminga took more shots than any player on the floor for the Warriors. And he took more shots than any player on the floor, period, except for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who took 30. Now, again, he had a good game. The Warriors needed it. I'm not crushing him by any stretch, but that's a lot of shots for that's a lot of shots for a third-year player that's coming off the bench. But again, if he's attacking the way that he's attacking, I think you can live with that. 808 KNBR. Is the number, 808 KNBR. Let's go to Jacob in Santa Rosa here on The Sports Leader.
Hey, good evening, man. How's it going?
I'm doing well. Thanks for giving us a call here tonight.
Yeah, and, I'm actually really enjoying the NBA in general this year. Like, there are some teams that are getting good. Like, the parity in this league is becoming apparent, OKC, Minnesota, Indiana, like these teams are getting legit this year, and the Warriors are just kind of not one of those teams this year. They're just like, as the young people say nowadays, they're just mid, And I think like what might help this team, honestly, they look like they kind of need a break, like just a break or like a shake-up of maybe like Clay come off the bench. I don't know. It's kind of frustrating to watch the decisions that some of these guys are making on the floor. They're just kind of boneheaded, and like basketball IQ wise, it's like, why are you trying that super difficult shot? And but I'm encouraged by some of the young guys. Like, I love watching Moses Moody in there, and I love watching Brandon Podziemski for the most part. Those guys, I'm enjoying seeing more playing minutes for them.
Yeah, thanks for the call. And look, I do think Kuminga's coming around. Moody didn't have a great night tonight, but he's played, I think, more consistently than Kuminga has to this point this season. I think as far as the starting lineup question goes, and I had a lengthy back and forth on Twitter about this today, as there's been so much conversation about the starting lineup and changes and different things and what's Steve Kerr going to do and all of that. It's interesting to me on this sense. If Steve Kerr is going to make a lineup change, he's really talking about Kevon Looney. Like, let's just, like, Steph's not going anywhere, Clay's not going anywhere, Wiggins is not going anywhere, I don't think, at this point, because the Warriors need Wiggins' defense out there with the starting group. So if you're saying, well, Wiggins, take him out, put Moody in, or take Clay out, put Moody in, they're not taking Klay Thompson out of the starting lineup for Moses Moody. They're not doing that. That's not the shakeup. That's not the shakeup that Steve Kerr's talking about. It really isn't. The shakeup is, do you take Looney out and put Saric in? Do you take Looney out and put Chris Paul in? Do you take Looney out and maybe put Moody in and Draymond at 5 and Wiggins and Moody are the 3-4 and Clay, Steph are the 2-1? Do you do that? Or Kuminga? You could also put Kuminga in there with Draymond and Wiggins and Clay and Steph and start that way and make Looney the backup big. Chris Paul comes in off the bench. Like, you can stagger it that way. But we're really talking about, like, we're not talking about Wiggins or Clay. When Steve Kerr's talking about lineup changes, he's talking about Kevon Looney, if he's good, because Kevon Looney is always the guy that he would sub out if he wants to change up the mix. So, and Clay, I thought, played pretty well tonight offensively, the turnovers notwithstanding. And so I think you take that as a net positive, and you sort of move forward to the next one. Greg, what did you say there as far as a piece of sound you thought was good? Okay, let's go ahead and hear a little more from Steph Curry about needing to get it done now as opposed to later.
Right now it's just about winning games. Like, you can't let too much of this early part of the year go by without getting some type of safety net, I guess, in the standings. And like, as you work through some of the kinks that we have to work through and trying to get to full strength, you don't want to be chasing come the new year and into February. It's hard enough to win on a nightly basis, let alone trying to make a late season charge with that type of pressure. So, I mean, every game is important right now for sure. And I felt like we're approaching it that way. It's just not turning into wins as consistently as we want. So, yeah, this is a very important stretch this next 2-3 weeks where you get over 500 and try to build momentum. It can change the vibe of your team really quickly because, winning cures a lot of frustrations.
And I think the Warriors were hoping that they could have changed the vibe of their team over the last week and a half, and it just hasn't happened because they've blown these 3 games in SAC in LA and tonight in OKC. And the road trip continues at Phoenix on Tuesday, at the Clippers on Thursday, then they come home. But it's Brooklyn before heading right back out on the road, and really a week from tomorrow on the 16th, that's when the games just start coming. Hell, they go 16th and 17th next weekend, the Nets, and then they go to Portland. They come back home to play the Celtics, the Wizards, the Blazers. They go back to Denver on Christmas before a lengthy homestand that follows the Christmas holiday. Miami and Dallas and the Magic, who handled the Warriors a couple of times last year and are playing much better basketball this year. Denver is in right after the new year, and then the Warriors have more home games to boot after that with Toronto and the Pelicans leading all the way up until January the 12th when they go to Chicago, and that's really the first legitimate lengthy Midwest or toward the East road trip that the Warriors have had in a long time, since the first couple of weeks of the season, which now are about a month or even a month and a half ago. So it's not going to be easy. It's just not going to be easy as the games start to come in rapid succession, and that's when the injuries start to pile up, and that's when it gets harder to win because you have to ultimately win shorthanded. So 808 KNBR, the number. Final couple of minutes here. Appreciate Sam and Jacob checking in throughout the course of this segment. Let's go ahead and hear a couple of Draymond cuts before we call it a night here on The Sports Leader. Draymond post-game talking a little bit about just this team having to try and figure things out.
I mean, we're losing games, so it don't really matter how you feel about the, sad things. We got to win games, so just got to figure it out.
Got to figure it out. Just got to figure it Just got to figure it out. Draymond went on to discuss that this team still has some, there's a belief that they can get things going and flipped in the right direction.
I thought, something that we've been talking about a lot, fouling while we're up 3, and so I was very hypersensitive to it, like I got to foul. You don't want to be the guy to get that 3 up. I personally thought that I got him before he started his over motion. But I saw the replay too, and it's close as hell. And, regardless of if I did or didn't, if it's close, they're going to go to call on the floor. The call on the floor is 3 shots. So I got to be better there. He's facing the rim. I can't foul there. I think, I jumped for the ball thinking I could get the steal, and it went a little over my head. I just need to stay down and not get the steal, knowing I'm fouling him as soon as he starts catching the ball. So I that off. It's a mistake that a young guy should make, not someone in their 12th year.
Yeah, it's a little replay of Draymond's quote of the night. He bleeped it off, the foul of Chet Holmgren, and there's no doubt. We'll hear the other Draymond cut coming up here in just a moment. The great Greg Silver trying to screen a phone call and cut the sound and make sure we're playing everything as we we're running through some different, little bit of a different technical setup tonight. as we get things moving here with this Dubs OT show. So Greg's doing an absolutely phenomenal job. And, again, appreciate everybody on the YouTube and Twitch streams as well here on the Sports Leader for checking in as we continue this new program following each and every Warriors game here on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader. All right, 808 KNBR, the number. Zazie in Hercules. Is it Zazie?
Yes, sir. What's up, JD?
What's going on, Zazie? How you doing?
Doing well, man. Followed you here from your previous station. Congrats on the new gig. Loved your
Appreciate
insight.
that.
Just
Thank
wanted
you.
to check in with you. But, yeah, as far as I was listening to you earlier talking about the starting lineup, if you do take out Looney and you plug in somebody like Chris Paul, you get really old. I don't think that's going to be the move that they make. Put in Sarge. You've got a lot more spacing on the floor, which is probably what they could do. But the fact of the matter is Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins just aren't doing it down the stretch. 4 quarters in, and they're jogging. I think we need to get younger with them off of the floor, and plugging in Moody over Brandon would probably be the better play too. But, yeah, definitely needs to happen as far as changing the starting lineup goes. I think they go with Sarge moving forward. Cheers, JD. Have a good one.
Yeah, appreciate it, and thanks for coming over and making the switch. Zazie and Hercules, one of the longtime good guys and Warrior fans. Look, as far as the lineup change, and there is a case to be made, and I hear you on Chris Paul, there's a case to be made for really each of those guys that I mentioned. CP3, if you want a little bit more of a control, maybe you're going up against a younger team that can be a little erratic, not an OKC talented type team, but maybe a younger team that's not winning as much. You could go with that stability of Chris Paul as long as you think you can hold up playing a little bit smaller at the guards and the wings. You could go that route. Not going to be the call every night. You could go with Saric and the floor spacing and the shooting. Like each one of these guys you bring in for Looney changes the game in a different way. Kuminga is making his case, if you're going to do that. And, Kuminga is making his case to be on the front line with Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins and go with a little bit of length and sturdiness and strength and all of that. So, that is an option. Moody, I do think, is an option in some iterations as well. So I think Kerr has options as far as so I don't think Klay or Wiggins at this point are in danger of losing their starting spot. I know there's been a ton talked about switching up the starting lineup and all of that, but it's a scenario where I still think they're looking at trying to make sure that they keep the core champion players together as much as possible, with the possibility of opening things up. Now, the finishing lineup is a completely different story, and this is where I'm more in line with what the contemporary views of the last few days have been, and that is I think the closing lineup should be somebody different. To me, the closing lineup should be Steph, of course, and probably Draymond, because those two are still connected. But beyond that, I do think it needs to be a little bit more of who's having the hot night on that night. And, that's the one area where I would say, are Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins automatic finishers on a night-in, night-out basis for the Warriors? That's where I would say, you know what, I'm not sure. That's where I would say no. If Kuminga's playing better than somebody, then he can finish the game. They may not start the game. If Moody is playing better than somebody, maybe he doesn't start the game, but he can finish the game. And so I think that gives Steve Kerr a little bit more flexibility to where he's not making a rash decision at the beginning, but at the end you got to do whatever it takes to win those games, and he's just going to have to balance it. And this is not easy for Steve Kerr. In fact, I think you could make the case that it's the most difficult coaching job that he's ever had, because this team has legitimate expectations. This team has expectations to get back to and contend for an NBA championship. They may not be good enough to do it. But if they are going to do it, they're going to have to win a hell of a lot more games than they have to this point. They're going to have to get on a run. They're going to have to win 8 in a row, or 10 of 12, or 16 of 20 from a couple of games under or at the 500 mark to separate and get into that top 4 conversation. Because I don't think this team's got a shot to win a title unless they get into the top 4. And they're not going to get into the top 4 winning 10 out of 22 games. It's just not going to happen. They wouldn't even be a play-in team at this point. Obvious point, duh. What the hell are you talking about, JD? Everybody knows that. But here's the thing. The only way you are going to get on a run is if you maximize every opportunity to win close games, and the Warriors have just punted 3 of them consecutively away on the road. And so that means now there's even more of an expectation that you're able to finish and close those games and get the job done and win. And so that means you're going to have to pick the right 5 guys to finish. And if that is Steph and Pajemski and Moody and Kuminga and Draymond and Wiggins and Klay Thompson are on the bench, so be it. If it's Saric with Draymond and Moody and Klay and Curry, so be it. Like, you have to find the right combo. If it's Chris Paul and Curry and Wiggins and Kuminga and Saric, then you got to pick from the 5 that are having the best night on that night to get you through and ultimately lead you to the win. So 808 KNBR, appreciate everybody tonight. We do have a few more phone calls. Is it Shardell in Fremont? Shardell?
Yeah, Shardell.
Shardell. What's going on, Shardell?
Hey, John, I love your YouTube. I love your content on YouTube. I think you do a phenomenal job covering the Warriors.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Shardell. I love doing it. I'm having a blast.
And I'm having a blast, too, coming on here. I'm a first-time caller on KNBR, the sports leader. So I really love coming on here and sharing my thoughts. I think this game we should have won this. The Warriors should have won this game. It was a really close game. I think the Warriors fought really hard. And they should have won this game, but the Thunder are a really good team. They got Chet Holmgren, they got SGA. So they're a really good ball team. I mean, they're pretty they're good, but we should have got the win, but you can't win every single game. But do you think that the Warriors are going to bounce back from this loss?
They're going to have to, Shardell. And thank you for the phone call. I know you said it was your first. Don't make it your last here on Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader, because we're going to be doing this after each and every game. And it's folks like you that are catching on and love watching and love listening. And, it's you, the Warrior fans, that we're doing this for. And we're building something special here at the Sports Leader as far as the Warriors coverage goes. We got Greg Silver doing his thing. We got the great good stuff.
I really love everything you're doing because for me as a Warriors fan, I'm so loyal to this team, and I will support this team whether they win or they lose. That's what makes people should be like me, because if people would follow in the light of my eyes, this team would go so far in the season.
Thanks, Shardell. Appreciate the phone call. And yeah, the Thunder are good. Chet Holmgren's great. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's great. Like the Thunder look right now to me like a team that could be contending for a championship like next year. Like they kind of remind me of like a 2013, 2014 Warriors thing that they've got going on, where they're maybe a player away. Maybe it's just another year of seasoning and making a semi-deep playoff run this year as they're battling at the top of the conference. But they look, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was a first-team All-NBA guy last year. He's terrific. Holmgren's back now. Again, I don't know that they're a title contender this year, But I feel like next year they're a Western Conference contender. And look, I wouldn't sell them short. It's just going from 10th to 1st or 2nd is really tough to do. But it looks like they're going to be in position to maybe make one of those kinds of runs. I do think the Warriors are going to bounce back. They did fight hard, but it comes down to execution. It comes down to putting teams away when you have them down. It comes down to finishing games, and the Warriors have just not been able to do it at a consistent level at all. And unfortunately for them, now it just puts them, every game you get below 500, I hate having to keep saying this, but every game you get below 500, it takes you two games to offset it. And so now you got to get on a little bit of a streak to be able to make a run and push your way back. So 808 KNBR is the number. Final 7 or 8 minutes here on the Sports Leader. It's Dubs OT with JD. Really appreciate everybody calling in. Really appreciate everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch. I want to make sure we clean up a lot of what's going on in the YouTube stream as well. Rip Cougar. Minnesota is really 17-4. Yeah, Minnesota is really 17-4. Yes, they are. Absolutely. They're playing excellent basketball at the beginning. They beat the Warriors a couple of times. They've won 6 in a row and 9 of the last 10. They're playing awesome. The Thunder are 14-7. Number 2 now in the West. Denver is 14-8. The Lakers are 14-9. That's your top 4. The Kings won tonight in Phoenix. Here's the thing about the Kings. So the Kings are sitting in 5th right now. The Kings have wins. They have all these teams I just mentioned. The Kings have a win at Minnesota. The Kings have a win against Oklahoma City in a game where they didn't have De'Aaron Fox. Think about that. The Kings beat Oklahoma City without De'Aaron Fox as the Warriors take a 3 out of 4 to Oklahoma City in the season series in the Thunder's favor. Sacramento's beaten Denver. They've beaten the Lakers twice, and they've won at Dallas, and they've beaten Phoenix. So they're sitting there at 5th, and among the other 6 teams in the top 7, they've got at least a win against every single one of them. In fact, they've got wins against every single one of them, I think, without even having a loss to this point. Yeah, actually, that's true. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The Kings are 7-0 against those other teams at the top of the conference. Even though they're 12-8, they might be a little bit of a sturdier 12-8 when you just start looking at who's good. Even though the record is basically at a similar level compared to where they were a year ago when they won 48 games. So yeah, I think the West is better. And you're going to hear me say this a lot here on the Sports Leader. I think the West is – last year I thought the West was mediocre. This year I think, and a lot of it is Minnesota is significantly better. Oklahoma City is significantly better. Denver is kind of going through their injury thing, and they're the defending champs. Like, Denver's going to be there at the end of the year winning 50 games, like, without a doubt. The Lakers, I think, are significantly better than they were last year throughout the regular season. The Kings might be a different version of the same, but I think they might be a more solid version of what they were. I think the Suns are better. They lost Durant for a period of time. We'll see if he's able to go on Tuesday. I think Dallas is clearly better than they were. The Pelicans, when they have Zion, are a pretty good team. The Clippers have crawled their way back to 500 and still have Kawhi and Paul George. And, we'll see if James Harden winds up being a positive or a negative. But I don't know that they're necessarily better, but I don't think they're significantly worse than they were a year ago when they won 43 or 44 games. Houston is 9-9, which is dramatically better than they were. If anything, I think there's 4 teams in the West that stink, which that really wasn't the case last year until the end. Portland hung around until the end last year, basically when they quit and decided to tank and shut down Lillard and everything. Utah was a team that I think won 36 games last year and hung around 500 for a good chunk of the year. They stink this year. They're 7-14. The Grizzlies, how the mighty have fallen. If OKC's gone from 10th to 2, the Grizzlies are going from 2 to 14. And San Antonio's lost 16 consecutive games. So, to me, that you've got 4 teams that I don't think have a shot in Utah, Portland, Memphis, and San Antonio. Now, maybe Memphis gets it together when Ja Morant comes back, but we'll see. I think the damage is done there. I don't think they're going to be a team to be reckoned with at any point. So you basically have got one team that's fighting of that 11 for 10 spots as far as the play-in tournament goes, but I think a lot of these teams are significantly better. I think the Warriors are better than they were last year, but it's on them to go prove it. And to this point, they're letting too many games slip through the cracks in the early part of this season. Now, a quarter of the way through the season, to be in the position that they want to be in. So they're going to have to continue to battle and find their way onto some kind of a streak to vault themselves, not only into the conversation of the top 10, but all the way into the top 6. So great stuff tonight. Appreciate the callers. Appreciate everybody on the YouTube chat. A lot going on. A lot of great things going on as far as this station and what we're doing here at the Sports Leader as far as enhanced Warriors coverage, and I am proud to be a part of that, beginning with this show here on the Sports Leader, and just looking forward to being back after the game in Phoenix on Tuesday, and then they'll take on the Clippers Thursday, and we're just going to have it. We're just going to have it you covered every night that the Warriors are playing here on the Sports Leader. So really appreciate to everybody watching, everybody listening. We got this thing rolling a couple of hours ago and have just made it roll here on into the night as we get you closer to the 10 o'clock hour. So we'll talk to you on Tuesday as the Warriors will take on the Suns. I want to thank Raph. I want to thank Greg Silver. Amazing job as we were working remotely here for the first time. I'm John Dickinson. Thunder get the win over the Warriors, 138-136. At Golden State now 10-12. The Thunder wind up 14-7 as they move forward here on the young season. Warriors again next in action, going to head to Phoenix and be in Phoenix for the next 4 days. A couple of practice days in the Valley, and then the Warriors will take on the Suns, and we'll be talking about it with Dubs OT in the aftermath, right when the horn hits 000 here on the Sports Leader. So we'll talk to you soon. For Greg and Raph, I'm JD, KNBR 104.5 and 680 The